Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Tom Spark and welcome back to another video. Today's the start of a brand new series where I'm going to be dispelling common VPN myths. Right now I got around 25 or so videos planned, so let me know down in the comments down below if you know any VPN myths or misconceptions that I haven't talked about yet and that you would like me to discuss in a video to educate you guys about VPNs. Why am I doing this? Well, I've reviewed over 66 plus VPNs in the last couple of years, and I've actually been reviewing VPNs for around 5 years. So I'm trying to help you guys learn more about VPNs so you could pick the right one. Of course, I made vpnturelesscom to make an easy way for you to easily pick the best VPN services, as well as which VPNs you can really trust by creating the RVP, or the Reputable VPN Program, which is getting more and more members to date, which is really exciting. Anyways, guys, without further ado, let's go ahead and start off the first VPN myth that we're going to dispel, which is about the 5 and 14 eyes. I see this all the time, so let's go ahead and discuss it. Hey guys, if you haven't already, make sure to check out vpnturelesscom. This is like the central hub of the channel where you can find all the VPNs ranked in the tier list, explanations for updates and changes of scores in the transparency report, stuff about the RVP program, my favorite products, a fact page answering some of the most common questions, and even links to my Twitter account. Anyways, guys, back to the video. Also, guys, if you want to help support the channel, make sure to click on some of the links down in the description down below. So, guys, if you didn't know, the 5 and 14 eyes is sort of like a surveillance cooperation agreement between 5 and then 14 countries. So those are the countries within the 5 and 14 eyes respectively. Now, I've made several videos on this topic already, around 2 or 3 of my own, and then I even talked to David from OVPN, a CEO himself, where he was talking about how even though they're based in Sweden, they weren't forced to hand over any information about customers because they don't collect any logs. It's not like the NSA came over to Sweden and was like, hey David, give us all your information, and since you're here in Sweden, part of the 14 eyes, you have to give us everything you own. That's not really how it works. A lot of people have this idea about VPNs and picking them based on where they are based because they read from popular website articles and other YouTubers who are recommending services like NordVPN, ExpressVPN, and some of these other VPNs that have jurisdiction in places like Panama and the British Virgin Islands. Now, most of the time VPNs actually pick these places because it's just like an easy place to form a legal entity for a company that is probably going to be having international customers. Not only that, but a lot of times it's beneficial for tax reasons to pick and put your company in these places, which is one reason why these places are actually pretty infamous for hosting shell companies, where companies do use these kind of weird company legalization methods to hide and pay less taxes. But it's also a little bit of a concern because companies that are based in some of these places do have a little bit more anonymity and complication to the way their companies are set up, and I'm not a huge fan of that. It's just kind of like a side component of some of these companies that are based in some of these places. So when people say, hey, I'm not going to use a VPN based in the United States, I'm going to use a VPN based in Panama or the British Virgin Islands, I'm like, okay, good luck with using a company that's just using some random legal entity over there. Because after all, every VPN does have some offices and base of location. And let's say, there is an office in the United States or something like that, and the FBI or NSA or whatever finds out that this company is hosting information for somebody there. There could be some legal jurisdiction there if a company has offices and is working somewhere to be under some kind of surveillance network. One of the core kind of fundamental things, though, about the 5 and 14 eyes and jurisdiction talk and stuff like that is at the end of the day, it's not so much about where a VPN is based. Because if a VPN is based in the United States or based in Sweden or one of these countries, it really comes down to the company's reputation and how they collect logs. So it's more about not so much, because there's been examples of companies based outside the 14 eyes that have given up logs. I'm going to put some examples here. These companies were based outside the 14 eyes and still gave up logs. So just because a company is based outside doesn't mean they're not accountable or can't give up logs, because they can if they want to and are pressured enough to. Additionally, some of the biggest companies out there not being based in the 5 and 14 eyes are going to be getting more attention and probably legal questions than some of the other companies that are within the 14 eyes that have smaller companies and are probably getting less attention. Most of my favorite VPN companies are based within the 14 eyes. And I think one reason is because they're smaller companies that don't have need for such a big legal framework to be offshore to one of these remote locations like I was talking about earlier. There's not really a need to do that because if they don't need logs, it's just really a marketing method to be like, hey, we're based over here, so you should trust us more. And a lot of VPNs don't really find that necessary. Take, for example, when I was talking to David from OVPN.
So I have quite a lot of thoughts about the 14 eyes, just because we have just proven that it's totally irrelevant. I do think that it's mainly a marketing scheme. I don't really see the benefit of a company being in a tax paradise. I mean, Panama or Gibraltar.
British Virgin Islands.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's shadier. But if we just talk about the 14 eyes, it's basically a military signal alliance. So it's for the military to share intel about various threats that they're aware of. It's not about spying on all citizens in the country and beaming that back to the United States.
Or, they don't really care about people torrenting or streaming stuff or just the basic kind of like mass surveillance that, that's not like really what they're doing, right?
No, they're not allowed to according to Swedish law. At least. And it's different in every country, but the 14 Eyes, it's a military alliance to share information about potential threats. It's not about surveilling your citizens.
Lots of people say, hey, if you're based in the United States, you can have some gag order and you're just collecting logs on everybody, but that's not really how it works. Essentially, what could happen, let's say you're some kind of terrorist and you're planting bombs, or you're working for ISIS and you're in the United States and you're for some reason using TorGuard, although I don't really know why you would use a consumer grade VPN to do something like that. Essentially, the spy agencies would contact TorGuard and be like, hey, we suspect this person's using your service. What can you give us on them? TorGuard might give them some website information or perhaps billing information if it was given up, but since they don't collect logs, they couldn't give anything over. But anyways, all this would be consigned to just that one person. It's not like any other person who's using TorGuard also is starting to have their data collected and handed over to the NSA. It's just like that one person or one incident. If that even any information was given up at all, it would just be about that one person. So when people are worried about gag orders and stuff like this, that all the VPN's traffic is being routed through, it's not really how it works. There are just a couple things to remember with 5 and 14 eyes, is that most of the time when you're reading about a blog or a viewer mentioning this kind of stuff, most of the time they're trying to get you to buy a VPN outside of it. Most of the time, these VPNs have high commissions and huge marketing budgets. Companies that have legal companies in these kind of offshore locations are usually huge companies with multiple reasons for doing this and basing their places in these remote locations. Small companies at the end of the day often don't really find it necessary to place their company in Panama or the British Virgin Islands or something like that. Because if they don't collect logs, there's nothing to give over. I hope that makes sense to you guys. Just kind of a generalized video and kind of rambling about my thoughts on the 5 and 14 eyes. That's because I've made several videos on it already. If you're still not completely convinced that the 5 and 14 eyes really don't matter, I've made several other videos about it where I go into more detail, as well as an interview where I talked to David from OVPN, which I think is a really good interview as well. Anyways, guys, that's dispelling VPN myth number 1, that 5 and 14 eyes is super important when picking a VPN service. Stick around for the next one, where I'm going to be talking about VPN sales and sketchy marketing methods and stuff like that, like limited countdown clock timers and my problems with them and why they're very misleading, and overall people get confused and misled by them. So I'm going to dispel the wonderful world of VPN sales in the next myth video. Stay tuned for that, guys. Leave me down any comments down below for any future video ideas in the myth series, and I'll see you again very soon. See you later.